Good evening. Will this meeting of the School Board of Independent School District 279 please come to order? It is the 16th of June, 2015, and the time is 6:05 p.m. Seated in front of me this evening from my left to your right is Director Jessica Craig, Director Linda Edom, Director Jackie Gertz, myself, Director Dean Henke, Director Jim Burgett, Director Bob Gerhart, and Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Kate McGuire. Would everybody please stand for the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Board members, in front of you is the agenda. Are there any additions to the agenda? Hearing none, I would move to accept the agenda as printed.
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries to accept the agenda as printed. Our next agenda item is the audience opportunity to address the school board. If anybody would like to address the school board, we have salmon-colored cards on the table back here. And I do not have any at this moment, and I don't see anybody moving to fill one out. So we will move to our next agenda item, which is the Superintendent's Report. Dr. McGuire.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. A regular part of the Superintendent's Report is to share points of pride. Points of Pride celebrate students, staff, and community members who are contributing to the accomplishment of our mission, which is to inspire and prepare all students with the confidence, courage, and competence to achieve their dreams, contribute to community, and engage in a lifetime of learning. And I've asked cabinet members to share those points of pride tonight.
Under the category of Achieving Dreams, Park Center senior high students Nate Mishasha, Lung Yang, Mohit Uppal, Verona Dinanath, and Amit Harbaran have earned 4-year Wallen Education Partners scholarships totaling $16,000 each. Scholarships are awarded to students who have challenged themselves academically in college preparatory courses, demonstrated leadership, and shown a commitment to service. Rush Creek fourth grader Sarah Feng earned a national award for her participation in the Continental Mathematics League 2014-2015 competition. Sarah achieved a perfect score in all 5 meets that challenged students with higher-level problem-solving skills and strategies. She is among only 3 fifth graders in the nation this year to accomplish this feat. Osseo Senior High presented its prize book awards to Jeremy Matson, Kaylee Halen, and Alicia Nevayarovich. The awards are given to 3 students in the junior class who demonstrate excellence in scholarship, leadership, extracurricular activities, and other fields.
Dana Albrecht, Jordan Casperson, Amelia Gonsup, Shayna Peterson were honored with scholarships by the Park Center Band Boosters. The scholarships were awarded based on academic performance, leadership, and participation in band-related activities. 46 Maple Grove Junior High students earned college credit for the technical education course Introduction to Engineering and Design by successfully completing a 2-day, 80-minute exam. 11 of the students earned advanced scores, placing them in the top 10% of all students who took the exam nationwide. Osseo Secondary Transition Center students John Kugler and Joseph Riemann were recognized for tech prep and best effort for their participation in the Hennepin Technical Pathways construction program. The awards acknowledge their college readiness and demonstration of skills through hands-on work in many construction disciplines. Additionally, 2 students from OSTC earned diplomas from Hennepin Technical College. Diamond Meway and Alex Charlton competed the Plastics Engineering Technology program. The Osseo Junior High Destination Imagination Team, the Ideas Keep On Comin', finished in 8th place in the Middle Level Fairy Tales Challenge at the Global Finals competition in Knoxville, Tennessee. Oakview Elementary also sent a team to compete in the Global Improv Games Challenge. More than 60 adults who participated in the Families Inspired to Reach for Excellence Family Engagement Program were celebrated at a graduation ceremony in May.
In contributing to community, Garden City Elementary created a little free library to encourage reading by providing community members an opportunity to both take a book and leave a book. Garden City's Little Free Library is specifically meant to house children's themed books intended for readers in grades K to 5. This year, with the help of a grant and maintenance support from the local Pheasants Forever chapter and the Minnesota Environment and Natural Resources Trust Fund, more than 100 Weaver Lake fifth graders planted a half-acre plot of prairie at the school to attract monarchs and pollinators. Local Pheasants Forever members will help maintain the prairie for 5 years to ensure it becomes established. Birch Grove Student Council visited Feed My Starving Children to help pack meals for hungry children in other countries. Together, they packed 25,488 meals, enough to feed 70 children for an entire year. Students in the skills program at Brooklyn Junior High have participated in We Day for the past 2 years, conducting a number of service projects such as recycling books to send to Africa, China, and the Lino Lakes Prison, assembling hygiene bags to distribute at a local teen homeless shelter, and most recently, creating a quilt to donate to the shelter. The District 279 Foundation will host its annual Reading is Fun 5K Fun Run and Walk on August 15th. Funds raised from this event will be donated to Osseo Area Schools Media Centers.
In the category of lifelong learning, Minnesota Twins strength and conditioning coach Perry Castellano, catcher Chris Herman, and mascot TC Bear visited Woodland Elementary students and staff as a reward for having the most people registered in the Hennepin County Step to It Challenge for a school with more than 500 students. Northview Junior High students were motivated this year by a school store that uses reward tickets as its only currency. By demonstrating positive behavior, students earned reward tickets that were used to purchase items stocked in the store. Student leaders volunteered to run the store during lunch break to gain career and customer service skills. On Multicultural Night, Garden City Elementary celebrated many different cultures through a cultural attire fashion show, games, storytelling, free books, and food from around the world. Having been recognized in January with Hennepin Theater Trust Spotlight Awards, members of Maple Grove Senior High's production of Cinderella performed in the Spotlight Showcase at the State Theater on June 14th. Crestview 5th and 6th grade students learned about different jobs at the school's annual Career Day. Volunteers shared their time to talk with students and answer questions about their respective careers and work experiences.
In the category of mission-driven employees, members in the Education Minnesota Osseo teachers, nurses, Kid Stop instructors, ESPs, and AESP units held a fundraising drive for Seep, Cross, and Brooklyn Avenues as part of Education Minnesota's Week of Action. They raised a total of $3,000. As the school year came to a close, a group of seniors who were former Oakview Elementary students gathered with some staff at Oakview to reminisce about their elementary school experiences. More than 500 of our teachers spent the first weeks of summer participating in the district-sponsored Summer Institute, learning opportunities focused on technology, increasing rigor and engagement, culturally relevant instruction, and more. And 2 recent media reports have featured district staff's role in Park Center's progress towards closing the achievement gap and increasing on-time graduation rates for all students.
All right, thank you. In further celebration of a few things, I'd like to acknowledge Kelly Benusa, who happens to be in our audience this evening. Kelly is our Director of Business Services, and she's been named a National Pinnacle Award winner by the Association of School Business Officials International. The Pinnacle Awards recognize outstanding practices and new ideas that result in significant contributions for school districts and the profession of school business management. Kelly was recognized for her leadership in the development and implementation of our system's long-range financial planning process, which has resulted in a budget planning process that's aligned with our strategic priorities and is more transparent to our community. Kelly was also named the state's top school business official in 2014. We have one of my favorite events of the year is the school board-sponsored Retiree Social. At this year's retirement celebration sponsored by the school board, we honored 134 retirees who provided a combined total of more than 3,000 years of dedicated service to students in our school district. Members of the Osseo area retired educators, pictured here, served refreshments at the Maple Grove Senior High, and the Maple Grove Senior High String Ensemble provided beautiful music during the reception. Each retiree was offered the opportunity to share some thoughts for publication of the event program, and a recurring theme was the importance of relationships with students and district colleagues. As you know, strong relationships are one of the key components of effective schools and systems, And the strong sense of community in Osseo area schools is one of our district's hallmarks. Approximately 1,400 seniors from all of our high schools participated in commencement ceremonies on June 6th at Mariucci Arena. Each event featured a traditional singing of the national anthem, student speakers, music performances, recognition of student honors, and the moment everyone waits for, the presentation of diplomas. Our district Facebook site features a commencement photo album for each of our 3 comprehensive high schools. A separate ceremony was held on June 3rd for students graduating from the Osseo Area Learning Center for students who chose not to participate in the ceremony for our other 3 high schools. Lastly, I just want to recognize some transitions in leadership tonight. I'd like to recognize 3 new assistant principals who are in our audience, and I'd ask them to stand. Sarah Luby Morris is our new assistant principal at Maple Grove Middle School. Keisha Davis will be our new assistant principal at Birch Grove Elementary School for the Arts, and Stephanie Webster will be our new assistant principal at Oakview Elementary. So I just want to recognize and welcome our new leaders as they join our system. We also have an outgoing leader to acknowledge. So I just want to acknowledge Dr. Terry Stallo for her service to our school district. Tonight will be her last formal school board meeting before she enters her own school board meetings as the superintendent of Prior Lake Savage. And so I just want to wish Terry well. She's made tremendous contributions to our school district. She's been a valued member of our administrative and our executive team, and we're going to miss her leadership. So I just want to recognize Terry at her last formal meeting tonight with Osseo Area Schools and wish her luck in Prior Lake Savage. Thank you.
Thank you for those reports. Terry, some of those boards can be pretty tough, so keep an eye on them.
I've given her all the coaching I can.
As much as you can, right?
You still have time to change your mind.
Have we actually approved it yet? I should look. Our next agenda item is planning for new grade spends. Kim Riesgraff. Welcome, Kim.
Thank you. Chair Henke, school board members, Superintendent McGuire. I'm Kim Riesgraff, the Assistant Superintendent of Administration, serving as your project manager for our grade span change. And during this report, I'm going to review the work that we've completed since the last update that I gave you on May 19th. So we're getting toward the end of the year, so you've seen the priority results multiple times, and we're getting very close to beginning our 2015-16 school year with pre-K 5 elementary schools, 6-8 middle schools, and 9-12 high schools. So we're looking forward to that. The tasks in the project initiation plan that's been guiding our work all year long are nearly complete. And you, school board members, approved a new priority result for the 2015-16 school year, which will focus on monitoring the implementation of the new grade spans. The new grade spans, the new result is that the new grade spans have been implemented with a plan to monitor and adjust in the following program areas: middle school, out of school time, and high school. And then at the May Grade Configuration Steering Committee, input was gathered on this new priority result and the work that we would need to do to accomplish the result. At the June 11th meeting, the committee provided feedback on a draft revision of the plan that reflected this input. So all of that has resulted in an updated version of the project initiation plan, which has now been renamed the new grade span project plan to reflect that we're at a different phase in our implementation. The new grade span project plan describes the steps needed to move the project from the planning phase to the steady state in order to accomplish the updated strategic plan priority result. The plan can be found on our website in the new grade spans project management documents section. The middle level design team had its last meeting for this school year on May 11th. As I shared in my last update to the board, at the meeting, the team finalized the recommendations for the middle-level report card in our parent-teacher conferences. The middle-level design team plans to resume meeting in late August or early September with a focus on reviewing the middle school implementation and planning for the 2016-17 school year. The middle school advisory curriculum for career and college readiness and academic oversight will be the Ramp Up to Readiness curriculum. The Minnesota Career Information System will be used to track student goals, activities, and progress. And training on that Ramp Up to Readiness curriculum is taking place later this month and again in August, with teams from each of the middle schools and from our high schools. Lessons have been developed for the social emotional learning component of the advisory. Sites will also be able to use existing advisory lessons focused on social emotional component based on the specific needs of students at their site. Middle school music teachers met to discuss challenges associated with moving to the full band and full orchestra instructional model beginning in 6th grade. Teachers will be working in writing teams in June and August to revise curriculum to better align with the new instructional model. In the area of high school programming, the work of the high school programming project team has been completed for this school year. The team met in April to recommend work that will begin in August as part of the planning for the 2016-17 school year. In recent weeks, the construction meetings at the 3 high schools have focused on the interior work that is ramping up since students have been released for the summer. The high school staff have done an outstanding job, and I can't say that enough, of working to vacate spaces that we need to alter over the summer. The custodial staff is coordinating the renovations with our logistics team, and the maintenance team is working with the general contractor to maintain air conditioning and utility services for events and other things scheduled in the buildings. And we're continuing to project substantial completion of construction at all 3 high schools by July 31st, 2015. In the area of human resources, HR is in the midst of placing displaced ESPs, and on June 19th, the summer posting process began for ESPs for both internal and external applicants. And then all open positions in the school district will continue to be posted throughout the summer. The logistics project team sent another update to our site logistics contacts on June 3rd, and that update included reminders on submitting building maps and lists of staff moves, instructions for site contacts to communicate when their equipment is ready to move, so we've already started moving things, details on the plan for redeploying surplus furniture and equipment, and then information on how to get questions answered over the summer months. Team members are also coordinating a plan to communicate room numbers for the new classroom spaces at our high schools. And the logistics project team will continue to meet throughout the summer to respond to questions and issues as they arise. At this stage in the process, the logistic plans have been developed and they're being implemented. And the main work of the team is really to monitor progress, coordinate communication, and respond to questions as they emerge. In the area of technology, all the final database and other system updates will be completed by July 1st, once the student data system has switched over for the coming school year. The technology grade span team will not need to meet after July 1st when the final changes are implemented, and we don't anticipate any further changes due to the grade span change. And lastly, a good place to stay informed about planning for new grade spans is on our school district website, which contains links to our project overview, those project management documents I referred to earlier, and all of our planning updates. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Board members, any questions or comments? None?
Chair Henke?
Oh, Director Gertz.
I just want to make a comment about how appreciative that I am about all of the hard work that all of our staff has done at the end of the year with packing everything up and all of the incredible work that all the staff and the whole district has done. I just want to tell everybody thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next agenda item is school board reports. We have a May 26th Policy Committee report.
Mr. Chair,
Director Brigette.
the School Board Policy Committee met on Tuesday, May 26th at 6 p.m. here at the Education Service Center. The committee members, Directors Jackie Gertz, Bob Gerhard, and I attended along with Margaret Weston, General Counsel, and Kate Emmons, Director of Student Services. The committee reviewed 2 proposed policies, tutoring and workload limits for certain special education teachers, a new policy proposed to meet a recent mandate in Minnesota rule. School districts are required to have a policy that addresses workloads for special education teachers, providing direct special education services to students who receive those services at least 60% of the instructional day. Ms. Emmons provided information about certain current staffing processes and considerations for students meeting those criteria. The committee directed staff to begin work on administrative procedures to implement the proposed policy. The committee also considered proposed amendments to the tutoring policy, Policy 443, which addresses how to obtain tutoring services for ISD 279 students. The existing policy is titled Homebound Services and addresses both homebound services and tutoring. Because homebound services are available in limited circumstances that are set in statute, the committee is recommending deletion of the part of the policy that deals with homebound services and updating the policy to reflect how tutoring services are currently provided to ISD 279 students. The tutoring policy will be on the agenda later this evening for first reading. Staff will continue to research legal issues relating to current policies 452 and 926 affecting firearms on school premises for employees and members of the public.
Thank you. And we have a June 2nd, 2015 work session report. Director Gertz.
Thank you, Chair Henke. The school board held a work session on June 2nd, during which board members reviewed the alternative teacher professional pay system and prepared for action on the final fiscal year 2016 final budget. With ATPPS, the school board members learned about the background and historical development of our teacher development and evaluation plan and its relationship to the teacher professional pay system. Board members heard about the role of the instructional coaches in supporting teachers in their professional growth plans and in providing staff development. Coaches also conduct the required peer review of experienced teachers. Further, board members reviewed the financing structure for the alternative professional pay system. Staff and board members also reviewed and discussed the 3 goal components of the ATPP system: professional growth goals, student learning goals, and site goals. For the fiscal year 2016 budget, the second agenda item was the fiscal year 2016 budget. School boards are required to pass a final budget which is aligned to the district's World's Best Workforce Strategic Plan before the end of June each year. School board members reviewed the budget planning process and targets and reviewed previous action of the school board related to the budget planning. Further, the board received information about the current status of state-level education budget targets as legislators were preparing for a special legislative session. Finally, school board members reviewed financial forecasts and discussed the proposed fiscal year 2016 budget in order to prepare for action tonight. In addition, the school board provided direction to staff to prepare a resolution to authorize expenditures up to 50% of additional revenue beyond projected revenue resulting from final legislative action in order to add approximately 8 teacher positions. Later on in tonight's meeting, Executive Director of Finance and Operations, Patricia Magnuson, will be sharing more information on the process the school board has used in budget development. All school board work sessions are open to the public and are also audio taped. Members of the public can access audio recordings of work sessions on our district's website.
Thank you very much. Are there any other board reports? Hearing none, okay. Our next agenda item is the consent agenda. Board members, are there any item or items that you would like to remove for separate consideration?
Mr. Chair,
Director Gerhart?
I would like to pull off item I.
Okay. Any others?
Chair
Yes,
Henke,
Director
could you
Gertz.
please state what
what I is for
Okay,
public or people who
yep.
don't have that.
So agenda item I is contract for services, 2-year service agreement for internet service by and between Independent School District 279 and Technology and Information Educational Services ties. So that's agenda item I. Any other items? So with that modification, I would move to accept the consent agenda as modified. Do we have a second?
Second?
Seconded by Director Gertz. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. We now have item I, contract for services, Director Gerhardt.
Mr. Chair, thank you. I just wanted to pull this one out for separate consideration because part of the item that we're looking at in front of us also includes the contract for the lease of 4,580 iPad Air 2 devices and cases. I've been vocal in the past about my very strong opinions about our project with iPads. In a work session a while back, I raised a concern saying that I was worried about the fact that we're spending a lot of money on the order of millions of dollars for technology without having a clear goal in mind. And even after that issue was raised, I still haven't heard anything back from anybody in the district saying, what is our objective? What is our plan to reach that objective? What are measurable ways to determine our progress towards that objective? And ideally, even a contingency plan if we don't meet that objective. As it is right now, we're throwing a lot of money at a project and assuming good things are going to happen or hoping. And I don't think that's a wise use of people's money. So for those reasons and others I don't have time to go through here, I'm going to be withholding my support for this part of the budget.
Okay, thank you. Board members, any questions, clarification?
Chair Henke, I would just like to make a statement.
Yep, Director Craig.
I would just like to say that the technology and the use of the iPads in the classrooms it's the wave of the future. Other districts are jumping on board with the iPad technology. It prepares our students for the workforce here after they leave our district. Without hearing a solid plan, I can't imagine not supporting this. I hear what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. I know that your goal and objective is to protect taxpayers and to look out for their best interest, but I don't hear a solid plan to replace this technology, and so therefore we're on this pathway, and I can't imagine getting off of it at this point. So I'll be supporting this. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Director Gerhardt.
I'd just like to follow that up by saying that there really does not need to be a plan to replace the iPads. We had no iPads before. A pencil and paper worked just as fine as they did last year. And I just don't see any good reason to throw more good money after bad. So I will maintain my opposition to this item.
Chair Henke, may I ask a question?
Yeah. Director Craig.
Just for clarification, because maybe I don't understand, but on the agenda, it does state that the fiscal year 2016 contract is not to exceed $178,000 and is funded through the capital projects levy. Bob Gerhardt, you had mentioned that millions of dollars are being put into this project. Could you clarify what this $178,000 is then referencing?
Director Craig, I think I can respond to that, because what I think you're looking at is a mistake that I made.
Oh, okay.
In putting the reference to the 4,580 iPads, that should go with item J, so I believe the item you wanted to remove was item J, which is the Schedule 3. The 178,000 is connected to the internet service provider contract, and I'm only seeing that now. The items that are included in the agenda itself are correct.
Okay.
I asked Tammy to put the correction into the wrong header
Okay.
on the agenda, so that's my error.
Okay. Do we know how much the contract then is for this offhand? I can't recall.
So it's in the attachments. Tim, do you have the number off the top of your head? I'll look at
I
it real
want to
quick.
say maybe 2.3 million.
Is it 2.3?
We've got a few people looking,
Yeah.
so when we find
Okay.
it,
Schedule 3 amounts to about $591,000 per year, so the schedule you're adopting tonight, and it's a little over $2 million in total over the 4-year life of the contract.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for clarifying. Chair Henke?
Director Gertz.
So should we make an adjustment saying that Director Gearhart would like to have actually item J for separate consideration, and he's really wanting to approve I? Is that, I mean, you're not wanting I to be separate consideration?
Yeah, I was going to bring that up as a point of clarification, if there's a way for us to correct this, because I'd be withholding my support from item J then, as opposed to item I as in the agenda. But since we already voted on that, I'm not sure what the proper process would be
Yeah,
at this point.
I was going to say, don't recall that it's come up with my time on the board, but I believe with, even though the item is maybe not the correct one, the consent agenda has been approved with that modification.
Well, such as it is, I don't think that I'm going to win this vote, so I'm just going to let it go as that, and just have it on the record that I opposed it.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Mr. Chair?
totally understand. Director Brigette.
Just as a point of clarification for those people looking at the board packet, I have it on page 95 of the
So it's a little, okay.
Adobe
I hadn't found it
document.
yet, so, okay. Yeah, and for the audience, so our last discussion was, item I was removed for separate consideration. And as we looked a little further, the item that was really in question was item J, but since the consent agenda has been passed with the modification. So with that, is there any more discussion on item I?
Mr. Chair?
Director Brigette,
So item I, as you're talking about, that's the internet connectivity.
for ties, correct?
Okay. I have no issue with that, and I'd move to approve that one.
Okay, and I would second that. Any other discussion? Hearing none, so all those in favor of item I, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries to accept item I, contract for services. Our next agenda item is action items, and we have the fiscal year 2016 budget. Patricia Magnuson and Kelly Benusa. Welcome.
Good evening. Good evening, Superintendent McGuire, members of the board, Chair Henke. Tonight's action item is the adoption of the fiscal year 2016 budgets. As you know, school boards are required to adopt the new budget by June 30th of each year, and the budget document board members reviewed at the work session on June 2nd was prepared at the board's direction as part of our comprehensive budget planning process. Tonight, Kelly Benusa and I will review the budget highlights, and I wanted to point out that Mike Hewler is here in the audience, and also Cindy Brown played a significant role in the long-range financial planning process and in the budgeting process. And this process, which is culminating tonight, is the very process for which Kelly has been awarded the National Pinnacle Award that she will be receiving at the Association of School Business Officials International Conference in October. That is a significant award for our profession, and along with being the statewide 2014 School Business Official of the Year, we should be very proud, and I know that I'm very proud to join this really remarkable team. So this is the process that we are going to be presenting on, and Kelly will be receiving an award on behalf of the district. So, budget decisions are made using our long-range financial planning framework, and this framework includes a financial forecasting model that provides the basis of our budget planning for financial stability. The budget decisions align with our strategic plan and our world's best workforce goals through a process that engages multiple stakeholders. Budget planning includes aligning our resources with the strategic plan and the world's best workforce goals, and assessment on the impact of productivity and essential services and compliance with all legal requirements. The school board has been engaged in several work sessions throughout the budget development process, And at the February 3rd work session, the board carefully considered the budget recommendation and the LRFP advisory team's assessment of impact. This is the LRFP framework. The framework provides coherence between our system's strategic plan and the allocation of resources. I think that's what's most remarkable about the plan that's here, and I think that's what got the attention at the national level, is the unique way of connecting the strategic plan with the budget. It describes the direction given by the school board and staff responsibilities and provides specific budget planning and implementation tools. This is the third year that the LRFP process is being used in planning for the general transportation operating funds, and the second year for all other budgeted funds. This circular timeline shows that this is a cyclical process that was used for fiscal year 2016. A similar timeline is developed every year. The school board approves strategic priorities in May, and department staff align continuous improvement plans with these strategic priorities. The board sets the budget targets in November and provides direction for staff in preparing the program efficiency, abandonment, and redirection narratives, that's the PAIR narratives, that describe needed adjustments to meet budget targets and to complete the work on strategic priorities. The PAIR summaries were shared with the school board in February, and the school board approved the adjustments at the regular board meeting in February. The budget that is on the agenda tonight reflects those adjustments. And then Kelly will take you through the information regarding the fiscal year 2016 budgets. She'll be providing information in all 5 of the funds: the General Operating Transportation Fund, Food Service, Community Service, Capital Land Proceeds, and the Debt Service and OPEB Fund. She will provide detailed information about the General Operating Transportation Funds because it makes up the majority of our overall budget.
So I'll begin with the fiscal year 2016 General Transportation Fund budget. So revenues increased by almost $2.6 million, and here's why. The net voter-approved operating referendum increased $1 million as a result of the voter-approved inflationary adjustment and an increase in adjusted pupil units in the calculation. The general education aid increased $964,000, which included, from the June 2nd work session, an anticipated formula enhancement at that time of 1%, which is slightly offset by a projected decrease of 25 adjusted ADMs. Equities increasing $727,000 due to a levy adjustment which resulted from an MDE formula correction for taxes payable in 2015. Desegregation transportation is increasing $400,000 based on prior year costs. Tax abatements are decreasing $319,000, and special education is projected to decrease $221,000. Safe Schools intermediate levy is increasing $113,000 based on prior approved legislation changes, and then other miscellaneous revenues are decreasing $107,000. Therefore, the revenue change from the February 17th projection is an increase of almost $2.6 million. Next, we will review the 2016 General Transportation Fund expenditures by category. Remember, we look at those categories in those big, broad areas: salaries, benefits, purchase services, and then other services. So first, we'll take a look at the salaries. So the salary expenditures decreased by almost $1.6 million. And the majority of that change is from the fiscal year 2015 teacher early retirement incentive amount of $1.1 million, which was just for 1 year. The board approved fiscal year 2016 budget adjustments of $89,000, and projected settlements, allocations, and attrition of staff are less than the 3.25% trend that we used, for an overall decrease of $540,000. Next, we'll look at benefits. Benefits increased $247,000. Special funded projects benefit chargeback increased due to a net grant decline for the district, which is projected for fiscal year 2016. Medical insurance increased for the first annual health care reform payment, which is due in fiscal year 2016, which was then combined with a 2% decrease in premium for preferred 1 employee groups. And then our other items combined are less than the 3.25% trend, which is a decrease of $191,000. The next category is purchase services, and that category decreased $392,000. We had fiscal year 2016 board-approved budget adjustments of a negative $89,000. The transportation contract that was awarded this last spring increased by 3.75% for next year, which was $70,000 more than the 3.25% trend. And then other purchase services were less than 3.25%, or a $373,000 decrease. Purchase services remained at 0% change for fiscal year 2016 budget. And then the last category, the other services expenditures, that category increased $108,000. The federal indirect chargeback rate decreased from 5.2% in fiscal year 2015 to 2% in fiscal year 2016. And then in that other services area, the items were less than the 3.25%, or $136,000. And this area also remained at a 0% change for this year. So overall, expenditures decreased by $1.6 million in comparing the fiscal year 2016 expenditure projection prepared for the fiscal year February 17th board meeting. The budget planning tactics utilized were 3.25 for a planning assumption, which is based on trend, and board-approved adjustments, which were a net zero change. The fiscal year 2016 adopted budget expenditure change from the prior year is 2.24%, which is below that 3.25% planning assumption. So after applying the fiscal year 2016 budget to future budget projections, there are two future scenarios. The one scenario is the base model. This model assumes a 1% increase to the basic formula allowance for fiscal year 2017. The impact would be $5 and $8 million in reductions that would be needed in fiscal year 2019 and 2020. The other scenario applies revenue and expenditure tactics. The revenue tactic is that for fiscal year 2017, fiscal year 2018, and fiscal year 2020, the basic formula allowance would increase by 1%. The expenditure tactic would be to reduce the trend for the next 4 projected years to that 3.25% that we used this year. So an operating budget reduction at this time would be a reduction of $3 million that would be needed in fiscal year 2020, so 4 years out. This next slide is a summary of all 5 fund budgets to be adopted for fiscal year 2016. The General Transportation Fund, shown in the blue column, has already been discussed in detail and is included just for comparison purposes. The Food Service Fund is in the red column. Revenues for food service are projected to increase 1.79% for fiscal year 2016. And overall, the Food Service Fund is projecting a planned decrease of $559,000. The Community Service Fund is the green column. Overall, Community Service is projecting a decrease in fund balance of $281,000. The 7% increase in revenue will be applied to the 9% increase in expenditures. And the main reason for that increase in revenues and expenditures is due to a projected increase in participation for Kid Stop and 4-Star Express programs. The Capital Land Proceeds Fund is the purple column. The increase in revenue is attributed to 3 main areas. We had lease revenue of $1.2 million, which was due to the issuance of the 2014B certificates of participation, which were used to fund the 3 high school additions to accommodate the grade span change for fiscal year 2016. The second item is the capital facility bonds were used to fund the interior portion of the high school remodeling project, resulting in a negative levy adjustment of $505,000, which is recognized as a revenue reduction. And then the last item was health and safety revenue, which is increasing $143,000 due to additional health and safety projects that were approved for fiscal year 2016. These 3 items, together with the 5.2% increase in expenditures, results in a planned net fund balance increase of $160,000. The debt service fund is the orange column. The revenue decrease of 0.8% reflects fewer required levies for the debt service payments. And then the nearly 270% increase in expenditures is due to the annual calculation of principal and interest payments on existing debt. The fund balance is projected to be $3.2 million at the end of June 30th.
So the action item tonight is the adoption of the recommended fiscal year 2016 budgets for all funds And budget adoption means that the budget was prepared in accordance with the board's direction.
Thank you, Patricia. Thank you, Kelly. Board members, are there any questions?
Mr. Chair,
Director Burgett.
I did want to point out that if members of the public want to have more detail, they can refer to the work session that was held previously and the work session materials available on the website, because there's a lot of additional detail, and we had many questions that were answered at that time. So thank you very much for the summary presentation, and congratulations again. Thanks.
Yes, I neglect congratulations on your accommodations for the work that you've provided for us. Just a quick question on the debt service. That was a bond refunding, if I remember correctly, so that's why it looks like such a large expenditure as we've refinanced some of our outstanding debt. It shows up under the debt service OPEB debt fund as a large expenditure. Okay. I thought that's what it was, but I just wanted to clarify. Board members, any other questions, comments? Hearing none, thank you very much. So with that, it is agenda item 9A. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Director Edom. Any comments or discussion? I just have one. For me, with the budget is made up of usually a lot of very large contracts that come up throughout the year, and that is the base for building our budget. And for me, I've not supported some of these large contracts throughout the year, so it's difficult for me to support them once they come to the budget. And it's not any indication of our budget development or the process that we follow to get to this point. So I'll be withholding my support on that. Board members, any other questions or comments on this agenda item?
Mr. Chair,
Director Burgett?
I did want to point out that we are moving in the right direction. However, when I first got on the board, I think our planning assumption was around 4%, and then more recently it got to 3.75, and now we're down to 3.25. So we are managing things carefully with a long-range financial planning process and doing the best we can to control things. So I will be supporting it. Thank you.
Yes, I would agree. It's moving in the right direction, slowly, but it's moving. Any other comments, board members? Hearing none, so there's the motion and the second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No.
Aye.
Motion passes on a 4-2 vote. Our next agenda item is 9B, authorization to increase fiscal year 2016 budget capacity pending legislative action in a special session. Patricia Magnuson.
Thank you again. Good evening. I'm going to give a few highlights from this special session. As you likely know, the session adjourned at 1:56 a.m. on Saturday morning. So the E12 education funding bill that came from that session includes an increase of $525 million for E12 education across the state of Minnesota over the next 2 years, and that's $125 million more than was contained in the vetoed bill from the regular session. The final bill does include all of the original policy provisions and the appropriations passed in the vetoed bill during the regular session. So that additional $125 million really went into two places. $63 million went toward increasing the per pupil formula to 2% each year. It was 1.5% and 2%. Now it's at 2% each year. And $62 million was targeted toward programs aimed at closing the achievement gap. So early learning, Indian education, and the renewal of compensatory pilot grants, which we are a participant in, so it keeps our funding level for the compensatory pilot grants. And as was mentioned earlier, at the board's direction from the June 2nd work session, we have prepared a resolution for your consideration. It increases the fiscal year 2016 budget capacity by an amount equal to 50% of additional funding anticipated within the general education funding formula as a result of this special session. And that budget capacity will be used to hire certified teachers. And as you heard Kelly describe earlier, the adopted budget includes a 1% increase in the formula allowance, and the final E12 bill includes a 2% increase. So the math on that is the difference in revenue is approximately $1.3 million. So 50% of this difference, or approximately $650,000, would be added to budget capacity to hire somewhere around 8 or 10 certified teachers if the board approves the recommended resolution.
Thank you, Patricia. Board members, any questions? And this was another item that we talked about at the work session. So with that, I would make the motion to authorize the increase in fiscal year 2016 budget capacity pending, well, it's now, they have acted, so, and so with that agenda item, do we have a second?
Second?
Seconded by Director Gertz. Any comments or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you very much. Our next agenda item is item 9C. We have the second reading of policies recommended for repeal. Tim Wilson.
Chair Henke, board members, Superintendent McGuire, 3 policies are on the agenda for second reading this evening. At its regular meeting on April 28th, the school board heard the first reading on the recommended repeal of 3 existing school board policies. 4 weeks have passed since the first reading, and no comments requesting retention of the policies have been received since first reading. If approved by the school board at second reading tonight, the policies will be repealed. The policies recommended for repeal are, number 1, Policy 608, Instructional Services Special Education. This policy was last amended in 2002. It contains requirements that are more accurately and more timely communicated to families through notices provided during the process of identifying students in need of special education and providing students with a free, appropriate public education. Number 2, Policy 615, Accommodations, Modifications, and Exemptions for IEP, Section 504, and ELL students on state tests required for graduation. The requirements addressed in this policy are established and regulated by the Minnesota Department of Education. It was last amended in 2007. And number 3, Policy 646, Due Process Hearing Procedural Safeguards for Parents of Handicapped Children with Disabilities. There is no model policy addressing this subject matter, and none of our benchmark districts have a policy addressing this matter. Due process hearing requirements are specific and established by federal and state laws. The policy has not been amended since 2002. If approved at second reading, the policies will be repealed.
Thank you, Tim. Board members will act on each one of these separately, but if you have any questions on any 3 of the policies for Tim, we'll cover all of them now. Any questions? Okay, I don't hear any. So I will move to approve the repeal of Policy 608, Instructional Services, Special Education. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Director Craig. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries for the repeal of Policy 608. The next item is I will move to approve the repeal of Policy 615, Accommodations, Modifications, and Exemptions for IEP, Section 504, and ELL students on state tests required for graduation. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Director Craig. Any comment or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries on the repeal of Policy 615. The next one is I will move to approve the repeal of Policy 646, Due Process Hearing Procedural Safeguards for Parents of Handicapped Children with Disabilities. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Director Craig. Any comment or discussion?
Director Henke?
Director Gertz.
Chair Henke. Chair Henke, sorry. I just want to make a comment just for the public as into our thinking around these policy repeals, that these are us not saying that, you know, special education, these accommodation modifications are not important. They are just things that are in federal law and state law that we need to abide by anyway. So it's not that we are taking out anything that we legally are responsible to provide to children who receive special education.
Thank you. Any other comments? So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries on the repeal of Policy 646. Our next agenda item is gifts to the district. I would move to graciously accept gifts to the district totaling $124,863.29. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Director Edom. Any comment or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries to accept gifts to the district. Our next agenda item is informational items, and we have a policy for first reading. That is policy 443, tutoring of students. Do we have anybody? I'm
I've got
just,
it.
okay. Tim, thank you.
Chair Henke, board members, Superintendent McGuire, as you heard earlier this evening, the School Board Policy Committee met on May 26th. The committee reviewed proposed amendments to Policy 443 titled Homebound Instruction. It currently addresses both homebound services and tutoring. The committee is recommending deletion of the part of the policy that deals with homebound services and updating the policy to reflect how tutoring services are currently provided to ISD 279 students. The policy is available online as part of the agenda packet for this evening's meetings or at the district's website. First reading begins a 4-week period for comment on the proposals. After 4 weeks, the proposal for amendment may be placed on the agenda for second reading, and if approved at that time, the proposed amendment will be adopted.
Thank you, Tim. Board members, any questions? Okay, so that was just a first reading. Our next agenda item is announcements. Director Gertz.
Thank you, Chair Henke. A negotiation strategies meeting will be held on Tuesday, June 16th, 2015, at 7 p.m. in room N10 at the Educational Service Center. This meeting will be closed to the public. The May 5th School Board Work Session on the Superintendent's Evaluation will reconvene on Tuesday, June 23rd, 2015, at 6 p.m. in the Forum Room at the ESC, the Educational Service Center. This work session will be closed pursuant to Minnesota Statute, Section 13D.05, Subdivision 3A, to evaluate the performance of an individual who is subject to its authority. A School Board Policy Committee meeting will be held on Monday, July 27th, 2015, at 6 p.m. in room W42 at the Educational Service Center. This meeting will be open to the public. A regular school board meeting will be held Tuesday, July 28th, 2015, at 6 p.m. in the boardroom at the Educational Service Center, and this meeting will be open to the public. And another negotiation strategies meeting will be held on Tuesday, July 28th, 2015, at 7 p.m. in room N10 at the Educational Service Center. This meeting will be closed to the public.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And our last agenda item is adjournment. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Director Gertz. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Director Edom. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries. We are adjourned at 7:02 p.m. Thank you, everybody.